Looking for the perfect hidden gem for your next night out? Welcome to Almost on the Lake, where the food is delicious. The service is top-notch. And the atmosphere feels like home. Family-owned and locally loved. Come see why everyone is talking about Almost on the Lake. Closed captions for this episode of Life in Wilkes is brought to you by Deal Insurance Agency in Wilkesboro, an award-winning, experienced, family-owned and operated agency with service and coverage that goes above and beyond expectations. Join us on a captivating journey as we explore the charm, history, and vibrant culture of Wilkes County. Discover the hidden gems, inspiring stories, and remarkable people that make Wilkes a place worth knowing and celebrating.
Good morning, Cam Finley. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you are, Carl.
I'm doing great. It's awfully good seeing you. We saw each other a couple of weeks ago at a little property that you bought.
Right.
And I was like, hey, Cam, I think people want to know a lot about what you've got going on.
Sure.
So before we get into the what used to be the big mall and then the Lowe's call center, and now there's a future you're going to tell us about. But let's let people get to know who you are, Cam Finley. Tell us about your people.
Well, way before I was here, my people came over from Scotland and Ireland into Pennsylvania down to Virginia and landed in Wilkes in 1804. That's the Finley side, and then the Fergusons kind of took the same route, but they were here earlier, back in the 1700s, and they are farmers, and the town of Ferguson is kind of named after them.
So you're related to Margaret?
Yes, we're first cousins.
Okay.
Our mothers were sisters.
Oh, wow.
Both artists.
I have to tell you that Margaret's mother was such an incredibly nice person, a great teacher. Years ago, when we were working on Story for Life in the Carolinas for TV, I went to visit with her, and I said, well, tell me all about your place and what type of stories come from here. And she told me, and she says, we can't forget to talk about Tom Dooley. And
of course,
there was a cabin there and a lot of her paintings, and she said, I'll give you some things for references you'll need for your story. And she gave me this great collection of paintings that she had put them on slides. And just a lot of reference material. And we used one of the cabins there and telling the Tom Dooley story. And she was just such a great lady.
She really was. I miss her a lot, but she really made a big impact on our community. And Margaret carries a lot of that on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Has your family, so you've got the two sides now, so the Finleys and the Fergusons. So what did the Finleys do when they first settled in this area?
Well, they had stores. My great-great-great-grandfather, John Finley, was the first in, and he resided in Wilkesboro, and he had stores and real estate, farming, all that kind of stuff. And so
you come by it honestly, don't you?
I guess so.
You were describing him, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I know those pieces in your life now.
Yeah, and when I got into real estate, I didn't really think about that. I just knew I loved the land and real estate. It was instilled on me. Into me by my father. He had a lot of respect for land and construction and that kind of thing. So I kind of grew up with it.
So was he involved with any of the preservation work or the protection of land?
No. My dad was more. He built a lot of houses in the community.
Okay.
And he had many different occupations. He went through a lot of cycles, I guess you'd say. But he was a good man, and he had a lot of values and instilled those in us.
What was life like growing up for you?
I grew up my first remembrance was being on the sidewalk in North Wilkesboro, right in front of a house that my great-grandfather built in 1870. And it's where Dr. Kilby lives now.
Okay.
And so I grew up, I had about 5-6 years there. And we had to sell that house because it cost too much to heat it back then.
Sure. And
we also owned it my dad owned it with other relatives. And so he sold that, and we moved out to what we call the shack. Mm-hmm. And that's a home that he built out of scrap building materials up on the side of the brushy mountain, little brushies. Mm-hmm. And we wound up moving there, and that's where I grew up for the rest of from age 11 up to 18, I guess.
So if you go back in your memories, what did you enjoy most, living in town or living out in the wilderness?
I got in a lot more trouble in town. Right. I come from a family of 6 kids, and Mom was busy teaching art lessons, and Dad was off at work, and we had a lot of freedom on bicycles and skateboards and that kind of thing.
Ken Welburn's told a lot of stories about that. Did you know him then as a kid?
No.
Okay.
He's much, much older than I
am. Well, being a little mischief and being on the bike, you've got that similarity, right?
Yeah, we did that. I think he had a paper route. I had a paper route.
Oh, so you did the paper route too?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
were you a Boy Scout in your young years?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was just a given that we were going to be. Mm-hmm. My grandfather started the troop at the Presbyterian Church in 1931, and I never knew him because being a Scoutmaster, I think, killed him. But he did die young before I was ever in the picture. And my dad was an Eagle Scout. Even my grandfather was as an adult. Mm-hmm. And then in Troop 336, my brother and I became Eagle Scouts, and my 2 sons did, and a couple of nephews. So it's in our blood.
Well, it's worth talking about that for just a moment, and to be an Eagle Scout. We'll talk about that. But getting into scouting and why your family thought it was a good idea and it was just a given, what was it about it? What were the disciplines or things that you learned that you look back now and say, "Oh, I'm glad I learned that"?
Well, I give a lot of credit to my Scoutmaster, Colonel Roy Forehand, mm-hmm. and he's Colonel for a reason. He mm-hmm. was in the military, and he was a pretty tough guy, very formidable force, and he was a high disciplinarian. And we had a big troop, 50, 55 probably, and we marched. We fell in to ranks at attention, and if we messed up, as a matter of fact, one time we were out near the lake camping, and another guy and I snuck off to swim, mm-hmm. which was not permitted.
That was not what you were supposed to be doing.
And we were caught, and Colonel Forehand made us dig a hole in the ground that was exactly 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. And we worked and worked and worked and did that, and then he came and checked it and said, "Okay, fill it back up." Right. That was our punishment,
Wow.
But
wow.
he anybody that came up through the ranks with him is a special person. And
did it give you a certain edge?
Yes. Mm. Yeah, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, get the mm-hmm. job done. Don't sit in the corner and whimper, just right. work.
Right.
And do the right thing. The values were a big thing. Mm.
Do you see that lacking some now?
I see an absence of it.
Right. Mm.
Yeah, I do. I do. And not everybody, but a vast majority I think of the generation in the last couple of decades have been a little bit more concerned about themselves rather than what they can do for others.
Right.
I think that's the big thing that I see is a big difference. And if you do those things, if you do for others, then a lot of other good comes from that.
Your life has exemplified that, hasn't it? I mean, if we look at in 2017, you were inducted to the Wilkes Hall of Fame, which you're in a great group of people, right? And when I looked at that write-up and all of those things that you had accomplished in your life and continue to accomplish, all of those involved hard work, right?
Well, there's no question about that. And thankfully, I did grow up with a good work ethic, and I stumbled and fell early. You know, I had my times.
That's important to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, I went to UNC Wilmington right out of high school, and I lasted 9 weeks because I thought...
You graduate early?
Yes, I got... No, it was a mistake on the schedule. I thought all my classes were supposed to be at Wrightsville Beach.
No.
But I got to come back, from that, and I kind of vowed not to fail again, and went to Wilkes Community College and worked for some people here that were in our church, the Vickeries, who had a tree farm and a landscaping business, and they taught me a lot about working hard. And that was a really good period of time for me, and I learned a lot and went on to Appalachian State and got a degree in real estate and finance, which I loved that.
Yeah, so that kind of helped formalize how you would build businesses moving forward.
Right.
Yeah. When you were back to the scouting for a moment, when did you become an Eagle Scout?
1976.
Okay.
So I was 15 years old.
Okay, so you were 15 when you became an Eagle Scout. Life would move on, and then one day you would be a troop leader, right?
That's correct. Obviously, I wanted my 2 sons to be in Scouts, and they started at age 5, and I was a parent for a little while, and then I started going on the camping trips with them and volunteering because the need's great. And as they got older, and the previous scout, there was only one Scoutmaster between Colonel Forehand and I, and that was Stan Clark, very influential person in my life. And he was the Scoutmaster for about 15 years, and then they couldn't find anybody else, and they tricked me into doing it, you know.
Did you feel it coming though? Were you like,
Not really, but that was a period in my life where I didn't say no to anything. I was just, yes, I'll do it. And I think that comes with still having some youth and some drive.
How old were you then?
About 40.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because you've done stuff, you messed up, and then
40's youth.
Yeah,
we
certainly
we
is
understand that as time goes on.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So one day you wake up, and that's the day you say, "Okay, I'll do it," and then that changed your life in another way, right?
It did. I mean, I had a lot of drive at that time,
and you were still doing other business. So that we're clear,
oh, Lord.
Just because you become a Scoutmaster doesn't mean you quit things. You're doing, I imagine, multiple things in your 40s.
Oh, yeah. There was, helping with the teams that my kids played in, and raising 3 children. And I had, at that time I had already gone to work for J.C. Fall, straight out of college. That was 7 years. Learned a lot. And then by the time I was 30, I'd set out on my own with a partner, Marty Kuhn, and we went at it for about 20 years. And we were very fortunate to work hard, and where we were working hard, opportunity crossed, and success happened.
Right.
But we were being a Scoutmaster and having that business going, and every other thing that comes with raising children was
pretty intense.
It was wide open, and I just thrived on it.
Right.
You know,
so that fed you.
Yes.
Yeah, it pushed you forward.
Yeah.
When people talk now about...
It's probably not a healthy way to go about things, but I did it anyway.
Right, because, I'm listening to you talk now. Of course, we hear this concept now called work-life balance, and that's confusing even to me. I understand the theory, but the doing of it, if you manage multiple things, that's a really difficult thing to manage, right? So I guess sometimes we just have to be okay with, I'm just going to be late doing this because I've got to do these other things because it pays for all the other stuff.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure that when I'm on my deathbed and the rest I'm snorting my last bunch of oxygen, I'll say, I understand what balance is.
Now.
Right.
At that moment, you will have discovered balance.
Enlightened.
Yeah. Wow. When I saw you at we opened up at the mall or the call center, and you were there, in your element, talking about walking around and showing people the property and talking about all the components of it and putting forth an idea or a vision or just listening to other people, what their ideas were. You just really seemed at home. That you seemed very happy doing that.
I certainly enjoyed it, and probably I was in my element. Wanting to share the good things about that property with other people, and gave me a chance to do that.
So Finley Properties, which... I know we're jumping around a little bit now, but that's okay. It's conversation. We're letting everybody get to know you. So Finley Properties that's the number I called this morning when I had your phone number, your cell number transposed.
Right.
I was like, what in the world? And I got your number. And then Barry, he sent it to me as well because I'd called everybody on the call list.
Okay.
But you and I were already talking by then. But Finley Properties, when did it formally start? Because that, of course, has been going for some time now. The brand's all over the place. But when was its beginning?
Well, I'll rewind and try to get through this quickly. But
take your time.
When I got out of college, went to work for Fall Properties, which is J.C. Fall. That was about 7 years. I went to work for him when I was about 24. And it lasted about 7 years. During that time, Mr. Fall was tolerant of some of us doing some moonlighting, which is doing other work,
right?
During after hours at
off
least.
The clock.
Yeah, and a partner or two and I developed a couple of shopping centers on the side, and we launched Venture Properties. I guess that would have been about I was about 30. So 91, we were doing deals. And we went at it for 20, 25 years, something like that, probably 22. When my son died in 2009, I kind of refocused and I wanted to choose a different direction, and that's when decided to go out on my own, although still being involved with Venture Properties, but more, the new deals I was doing on my own.
Did that give you some freedom or create some distance from that pain? Or that had to be an impossible time, almost.
It was a tough time.
Right.
No doubt. I mean, that's a big one, and it just helped me to reevaluate my life and what I wanted to do with it going forward. And I didn't want to go wide open all the time doing deals like Venture was keyed up to do. So I did make a change, and we traded out a few properties, and I just took off with Finley Properties. And that would have been in about 2012.
Okay. So are you saying that that was a path for you that you could work, you could stay busy, but not be as over-consumed as you had been. Is that?
Yes, and the freedom to do things. I mean, having partners is a wonderful thing. I mean, there's a lot of give and take there, and I guess selfishly I wanted to just do things exactly my way.
Right.
The old way was good, but it was a different time, and it was definitely, it was nice to, have full control of what was going to go on.
Sure.
Henceforth.
Did it work from the beginning the way you thought it would?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm a bigger risk taker than a lot of people, and I was able to do that, and it wound up being a pretty good idea.
So you're glad you did it?
I am.
Yeah. So Finley Properties starts. You began to do projects. Did they get bigger and bigger, or were you happy with smaller, mid-sized projects?
Yeah, well, right off the bat, one of the properties I traded into was probably the biggest project I've ever done, which is in Cornelius. It was a project called Antiquity that we were in the middle of, and we were going through the banking crisis, and, it wasn't doing really well. But I thought that it was a lot of potential there, and so I wound up having that from my partners, and I gave them some other property, and instead of pulling in the horns on that, I bought more land and wound up developing it into a pretty nice commercial shopping center with a Harris Teeter and a bunch of retail and about 500 apartments and 500 houses.
Nice. Wasn't that a time that for those who were visionary, and while the housing crisis was going on and maybe acquisition costs might be more favorable in those times, or could be, was that to your benefit? Because you said you're taking more chances, more risks maybe than some would take. Is that what made that happen for you?
Well, one of the big chances we took while it was still venture properties was that when the banking crisis hit, we were sitting there on a pile of debt with no income, and which way are we going to go with this thing? And what we chose to do is spend more money and put in all the roads and infrastructure that was needed to do it, because the prices were lower during that time.
Right.
And then, as you do, you come out of recessions, and once that recession was coming out of, it's when I kind of took that project, and there weren't any other lots down there. Ours were ready, and so we had about 5 contractors in there that came in and blew it out with houses and so forth.
So that had to be a win-win for everybody then. So they were looking for things to do. You were aggressive in moving things forward, and it worked.
Yeah.
So Antiquity, that was a huge success, it sounds like. And was that the beginning of Finley Properties, or just coming out of the other one?
Well, I mean, that was one project during that time.
Okay.
And there was other things.
All right. Did that set the pace? Was that something that you're like, okay, let's do more of those?
No, not really. I didn't want to do more of them.
Well, especially it's starting with a recession, you wouldn't want to do that.
And I had plenty of irons in the fire with another whole group on hotels, and the venture stuff continued, and I had that, and I started doing some other projects along the way. For instance, movie theater here in town.
Okay. Is that solar?
There is solar. There are solar panels feeding that.
Okay.
It's not 100%.
But it's part of it.
Yes.
Part of the design.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you developed the movie theater, and then there are other properties around there that you developed.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did the Aldi Foods up there and those shops, and we kept doing some stuff with venture up that way, and a lot of buying and selling going on.
Were you a movie guy? Is that why you did the theater?
No, not really. I just knew we needed one here. it was talked about back in a process that was called Vision 2020.
Okay.
And a lot of those things, I mean, Vision 2020 was a good thing, but there was a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And I just took the ideas and went and tried to do some of them and develop some neighborhood shopping centers. And
so you didn't form a committee?
No. No.
You were the committee.
Yeah, I was on the committee, but
right.
I'd rather just be able to get things done.
Right. Has that driven you all of your, like when from Finley Properties, was the gate open? You can say, okay, now I don't have to ask for a lot of permissions. I'm just going to do the things I want to do.
Yeah, pretty much. But that really started a long time ago.
Okay.
I was able to do the things I wanted to do with venture properties and do a few things on the side during that time, and then just sort of full bloom into Finley.
Are you glad?
Yes, I am. I was driven at a young age from need. My parents were wonderful parents, rich in love and values, but we didn't have a lot of money, and I wanted to help solve that problem. I was driven by ambition to have money to help do things for other people and that kind of thing, kind of the Robin Hood scenario.
All right. So let's talk about that, because that to me is a big part of your life. When I was reading the 2017 write-up for the Hall of Fame, and I was just taking my time and reading those words, and I read it again, and I read it 3 times. I was like, those are a lot of accomplishments there. So having gone through a life that you're still going through, I have to be careful how I say that, right? You're still doing it. You're still doing it.
Still here,
yeah, you're going to keep doing it for a long time. But seeing what happens in life when you work hard and you make things happen, but then you're able to help so many other things to make life better for others. What did that do for Cam? What did that do for your heart and for your mind, for your being? How important was that ability for you?
Yeah, well, it is satisfying, but I don't want a lot of credit for it, really. Some people just hadn't had the same opportunities as I have, and things didn't turn out the same for a lot of folks. But I think to whom much is given, much will be required, and I believe that.
Right.
And it would not be something that I would feel good about is, being financially stable and all these things without a lot of people closest to me being the same way.
Right.
I can live in a tent.
So when we look at those opportunities to serve, regardless of our economics, if we have a lot of money or not, but we do have time, maybe even the time is demanding, and because you've got all sorts of things, maybe family and work. But still we're better, or do you agree that we're better when we carve out time that specifically benefits in some type of service other people?
Of course. I mean, it's one thing to write a check. It's, most people can write a check from zero to whatever, but it's another because we have a finite amount of time. And if we're given a portion of our time, I think that was the most rewarding for me, being a Scoutmaster, coach, youth leader, different things back in the day. That really feels right.
So you were doing that early. So you were in that same position, because the early days you didn't have a lot of financial success because you were younger, but you were still giving in service to the Scouts, or I imagine other things as well, right?
Yeah, I felt the need to carve out time.
Are we better when we do that?
I think so. If we can keep it in balance, I think it can get out of hand too. You gotta. It's balance.
How does somebody get out of balance? Talk about that.
Putting too much time into things and neglecting other things. For instance, you can be gone every night doing good things out in the community and neglect your family.
So it's that balance.
It's a balance, and I was fortunate to do a lot of the things, like scouting. My sons were in it, so that it was intertwined. So I didn't feel like I was neglecting.
You were
those guys.
You were taking them with you,
right.
Or they were there and you were joining them.
Yes.
Really. Yeah, that's a good thing. So as we look at Finley Properties, we talk a little bit more about that activity. How has that philosophy that you've just shared about this balance of serving, giving, whatever that blend is, how has that been incorporated into Finley Properties? Is that part of not just you, Cam Finley, but is that a cultural thing within your operation?
Yeah, we continue to do things that we think are good for society and the community, even now. I like acquiring land and setting it aside for conservation.
Why do you think that's important?
Well, I've got this habit of breathing.
Right.
And so does everyone else, and we can't develop all our land.
Right.
And it's important to have areas that are just wild.
Yeah. Trees.
Yes. Trees, streams, everything that goes, just nature.
You ever get pushback on that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't think so in this region because I think everybody loves the great outdoors. We talk about it. We talk about it a lot. We talk about the greenways and why people come to this region. They come to get out and enjoy. They like to go hiking. They like to do our biking trails. If I understand correctly, at the reservoir, there's some trails that people come from all over the world to do biking on.
Biking trails. We've got a real mecca for mountain biking here.
We're pretty lucky that way, aren't we?
Yeah, but some of the land doesn't even need mountain biking. It just needs to be left alone.
Just let it be.
Yes.
Do you continually look for those opportunities?
Well, you can only, there's limits to what anybody can do, but primarily now just if an opportunity comes up around land that I already have, I'd like to add to it as I can and just create some big space.
Growing up, were you a fan of Hugh Morton's?
Yeah, I always admired him.
Right. So Grandfather Mountain, I think
I love it.
We would all agree that had it not been for Hugh Morton, things would not be as they are now, right?
Yeah, it's really biodiverse and thankfully open for the public to enjoy in certain ways, hiking and that kind of thing especially.
Did that, either him or just that place that's been preserved, did that have any influence on you and helping you think this way?
Nothing that big, really. I think being a really young person, and my dad influenced me a lot. He was very gentle on the land, and he had a little bit of land, and we would improve it some, but we didn't use power saws or bulldozers. We were hand clippers and bow saws.
Right. Right.
And his love of wildflowers and just teaching us different things about the trees and so forth. I think that's what instilled it in me.
Do you feel better when you're in those environments?
Absolutely.
So how do you feel better? Explain that to people. So if someone's sitting around and has whatever issue that they have in life they're facing that's difficult, how can this type of an experience be medicine for them?
Well, there's a lot of static in life. We have it in business. We have it everywhere we turn. We got cell phones, and it's just constantly there. And I don't think the human race has really evolved to a point where we really deal with that very well. So turning those things off and getting out in the woods, nature, where you can experience all your senses, smell, sight, smell and taste, or just hearing the nature. It just has a way of peeling off the stress,
Are you what is it? Do you do earthing? Where you take your shoes off? Do you like that?
I've done a little bit of that, but just being out there is something I really enjoy. I was on a little track hoe building trails last night.
Right.
So
if all the rest, the malls, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes more, but the mall's sold or leased, it's all done. The other projects are all going great, and the future's protected, the family's taken care of, and all that. Is there a time that you're like, I'm just going to spend time doing things with nature?
Yeah, and some of the things in life that are very valuable, I guess the ultimate would be being out in nature with my grandchildren.
Oh, sure.
Skipping rocks on the creek, and just because they don't stay small for long.
Right. It goes quick, doesn't it?
It goes really quickly. But at the end of the day, I'd rather be buried out on the nature than in a mall.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So
it's very healing. Nature heals.
I don't know, what do we do about that? How do we inspire people to go have this experience? Because it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
If you've got land around you, you just walk outside. But if you've got to drive somewhere, you don't have to drive far to find something, right?
Right. Well, even in the big cities, having some land set aside for nature is a big attraction. I think through organizations such as Scouting, you get kids in the woods. I used to take them out west every 2 years for a long time, and I would collect their phones, or I'd take them to a place where they didn't work, and I didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
And they would grumble and just, I don't have my phone. I had a kid come up to me after about 2 days in the woods, and he said, "You know what? I have less stress. I feel better than I ever have, because you don't have all that disturbance coming in all the time, needing to know what everyone's doing at every moment." And I'm an addict too.
Sure.
As far as that goes, I get on the news. It's really not a good thing. It's like, I'm feeling pretty good. Let me find some stress.
Right. How long does it take you to realize what's building within you and get yourself outside?
Not too long, even if it's just in the yard.
Right.
That's where my peace is.
Right. Just to go and relax and just forget about
or work. I'm usually working.
Sure. But that's relaxing.
I'm not very good at just sitting there.
Right. But doing something.
But I'd like to be.
But you just can't. Well, you're balancing. You got that balance going on.
Yeah, like I say, one day we'll figure it out.
I know this is an interesting conversation because we're talking about business, we're talking about developments, but I think it's important that we have these conversations that we're talking about now, because if you don't know that you're missing it, or you don't know that it has this possibility of doing this thing for you. So you talked about a few moments ago this kid who, it sounds like after a prescription of 48 hours of being out in the woods, he began to feel like the stress was all gone. And it was a Boy Scout, so I imagine that they were just doing regular camp things. They weren't taking medicine. They were just doing, nature was doing its thing.
That's right.
Did you know that the doctors now will actually write prescriptions for patients to go walk on the greenway?
Well, There's definitely, I don't know that there's really a name for it, but I call it nature deficiency syndrome. And I think we all have it to some degree, unless we were Daniel Boone or somebody.
Right.
But, it's just a part of a healthy mental state, I think, is to include that.
Yeah. I remember my grandfather one time. I remember him saying, "I'm going to go have a walk in the woods and talk to myself."
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that expression before. I don't know. He was a praying man too, so I imagine he did that. But just sitting there. I mean, do you have those moments of where you're just being calm and you just talk things through occasionally?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those human things, I guess. Yeah.
Meditation.
Yeah. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
I mean, just that idea of being still and just, that's it, meditate.
It just helps cut down on the extremes that we're subject to in our work and life and everything. Just get away and just pause.
Yeah. Helps us deal with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm not an expert at it, but I know it's there.
Well, you're your own expert. You are the man that's walked through this thing, and if you're fortunate, you have had people help you get through certain issues and situations. Yeah. I know that's been beneficial for me in difficult moments. So, but nature was always a big part of that. So I'm right there with you on that one. So, Finley Properties is like growing. You got 20 years now? Is it 20 some years for Finley Properties?
No, it's about probably 13 since I cut myself 13 loose from venture.
All right. Well, you're going toward 20. Going toward 20. So everything there is going the way you feel it should go, and you've got. Do you have enough big projects now to keep you content, but not too many?
Yeah, I mean, and contentment is a big thing, and I've worked on that a lot. Not being wide open all the time. But this opportunity came up in Wilkes County for the former Lowe's corporate offices, and I wrestled with that for a year and watched what was not done with it, and thinking about what the potential might be. And I said, my life's pretty calm right now. I'm spending half my time in Buckham County and half here. I'm enjoying my grandkids. Why don't I try to mess all that up and just buy this thing,
Right. So you've done that. Are you glad you have?
I am. I mean, it takes more work now. Take care of it, but it's exciting. I needed a purpose, another project, to feed the addiction.
Yeah.
But
this one's got to be a little extra special, I think, because you're not doing a massive revitalization to it, because you don't have to, and it has history. I mean, you have the mall. I mean, how many people? When I was with the tour with you, I think I even asked you as you're going around. You saw the coffee shop. I said, "Hey, Cam, is that where Orange Julius was?"
Yeah.
You remember when the mall was first there?
Yeah,
this was way before Lowe's, right?
It does have a lot of history, and the mall's an interesting part of that. More interesting to me is that the 39th largest company in the United States was headquartered there.
Yes.
And they set it up as one would when you're in that position. They spent lots of money on it.
Right.
And, of course, they outgrew Wilkes County and had to exit.
That's complicated, isn't it? I mean, some people are okay. That's exactly what you said. They just outgrew, and others still have hurt feelings because of that. But I guess
and probably should. I think there were things that could have been done that would have kept them here longer. Mm-hmm. They were willing to grow with Wilkes County and put money into it, and they got the door slammed on them, and emotions got going, and next thing you know, their eyes are set on Mooresville.
And then that happened.
Yeah.
Then that happened. But the call center stayed here after that move took place, and that building was taken down, and now it has a whole new purpose for being there.
It does. I see a lot of opportunity there for multiple uses. I don't have any illusion that there's one big company going to come swipe it up. Don't see that.
If do I remember right, there's 450,000 square
It's like
feet?
440,000 square feet.
440,000 square feet.
That's 10 acres under a roof.
Yeah. Plus over 2,000 parking spaces, and
Yeah, I don't know if it's the biggest building in Wilkes County, but it's close.
it feels big when you're walking.
It is quarter mile from one end to the other. And
Right.
the remarkable thing is that Lowe's maintained it meticulously, keeping utilities on, keeping janitorial going, keeping the landscaping, the security, and it is for certain uses, it's ready to walk in and use.
Sure. I didn't see a speck of dust, and I had met. I think I shared that with you, that a few months ago I had met at the hardware store. Everybody goes to the hardware store, in Wilkesboro.
Of course.
And I met the gentleman who was the caretaker, that kept everything running. Van, that's right, for so many years.
Right.
And still, is he still with you?
Yes, I've hired him.
To this day, he's still there.
Yeah.
And knows all the history, knows everything about the building. And when I talked to him a few months ago, and this would have been before you bought it, so it's several months now, I guess. I said, so how often is maintenance done? He said, every day. He said, it never stops.
Right.
It never stops.
Yep.
It's completely maintained as if all those people were still working there.
Yes.
So to me, that has to be a big asset for you as a developer now, having everything in as good a condition as it can be, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. And when you compare it to what it costs to build new, it's an absolute bargain. And I plan to pass that along to tenants in the future by offering rental rates that are multiple times less than what it would cost to build new.
Right. Well, let's talk about kind of your vision for the overall project, because as we walked around, you had all of these different spaces, and we saw the old Belks, the space that the Belks store was in, and now, of course, there's call center setups all over. Was it like 3,000 spaces that are set up for
3,000 cubicles, and basically the place is set up. There were 4 anchor tenants that averaged about 50,000 square feet. That those buildings are still there, and there's some petitions in them to make office spaces, but it's fairly wide open space, and so there's some opportunity for businesses, companies to locate there and have a first class A office space or space. It can be converted,
right?
At a fraction of the cost of what it would cost to go out and go ground up.
So I know it's early in the game, but are you getting any indications of what's going on? When we were there, I think I met one gentleman who actually was doing some work on one of the spaces, a smaller space, getting that ready for a tenant coming in, right?
Yeah, there's an architectural firm that's taken a little over 6,000 feet, and they'll employ about 20 people, which is a few jobs for Wilkes County, but you always have to have a first.
Right.
And that's the first. And there's a lot of other interest out there. We really only started marketing this 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's out there. If you wanted to liken it to fishing, we're getting some nibbles and bites, and we gotta, get them in the boat.
So it's early in the game. Are you getting the ones that you are talking to, once they see it, how are they responding? I know deals aren't, you can't talk about everybody you're talking to, but are people impressed with the property? Are they seeing the value there?
They had no idea until they walked in what a remarkable place it is.
Mm.
You can do videos, and we have drone videos and all the stuff you see on paper or on your computer, but to be inside of it and see that it's not just some old office building that's collecting dust and cobwebs, it's prime. I mean, it's good space.
Would it be wrong to say that it's state of the art?
No, it is state of the art.
Okay. All right. So everything is there, because the call center has just been closed for a short period of time. So it's not been sitting there, and the technology is not technology that's in the past. It's still current technology.
No, it's all there. The fiber optics throughout the building. Mm-hmm. And, of course, all your normal utilities are there. But it really is. It is state of the art.
Is it too early to talk about some potentials on what might be used in one of the bigger spaces that you talked about when we were all in that area? Maybe.
Yeah, I got a few ideas that we've got some feelers out on. Medical is one.
Right.
Higher education is another, without getting into details.
Right.
A couple of prospects there, and really contemplating perhaps doing an event center.
That's the one.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. It's set up so perfectly for it, and we do not have that kind of big space in Wilkes County.
That's what I wanted to talk about, because we can say, okay, we've got the Holiday Inn and the convention center there, but it's limited in space. So this would give you literally, if they're at the Holiday Inn, they can walk over here if they want to the event center.
Yeah, we have some good space in town. We got the Walker Center, the Lakey Ballroom up there, the Stone Center in North Wilkesboro. We have our space at the Holiday Inn, the Yadkin Valley Event Center, but they are limited, and they're not huge.
They're
spaces.
Comparable in size, I think.
They're very nice. All of it serves a need, but I'm talking about the kind of space that you could have conventions or trade shows, and we don't have that here.
Right.
You don't have it in many of the neighboring counties, not even Boone, not Ashe, not Allegheny, not Avery.
Have you looked
at Taylor, not Alexander, Yadkin.
Have you looked at those numbers and what that could mean? So if you've got, say, 50,000 square feet or 100,000 square feet for this facility, how would that impact the area?
Well, let's just take a trade show, for instance. You have people coming into town that otherwise would not, and they're going to spend time there at the show. They're also going to eat at the restaurants, stay at the hotels, be exposed to what our county has to offer. A few of them may fall in love with it and move here. You
that happens.
Don't know.
It happens, though.
It does. So it's exposure, and it's money in the bank for a lot of businesses, and it brings some notoriety to our county that, hey, we can host these things. Right. And you just look at trade shows that are going on in Hickory and Winston-Salem and all these different places, and we could host some of those.
And the nice thing about those type of venue-driven events is that each type of convention could be a different market.
Of course.
You could have, here's a building market, here's a fishing market, here's a this market or that market. So all different types of people.
You have a boat show, you could have a gun show, you could have Christmas show. It just goes on and on and on. There are so many opportunities.
How excited are you about that prospect?
Pretty excited about it. Yeah. Our main limitation for that is having enough hotel rooms to accommodate that. And we have hotel rooms here, but it might spur some more.
Right. And there's talks of that possibly happening anyway, right?
Yes.
So that could be another growth sector. If that need were there, then there's another growth angle for that.
Absolutely.
There, you got a call center. You could put out, at least 400 cots. Right?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
But,
so that's exciting. I think what I wanted us to make sure that we shared today was just an idea of the scope. And I followed social media and what people were talking as soon as, your very first day, and where everybody was coming and everybody was sharing ideas about this and that. And I, what it could be used for, what it wasn't used for, that they wish it had been used for. But we're dealing with the right now, right? So you have possession, and you're sharing it with people, and some people are getting excited about it. And it's just in the very beginning.
Absolutely. Anybody that needs big space in this county right now has to look at it,
right?
Because the scale of the financial aspect of that is, there's so much difference in what you could do at this existing building versus buying land, doing the site work, building the buildings. Building costs are extreme.
Sure. Of course, you'll be happy to help them with that if that's what they want to do too, right?
Yeah.
With Finley Properties.
Yeah.
Talk about the EDC and their work. I know those folks are extremely impassioned on selling the area. This has to be a wonderful opportunity and a sales tool for them to help attract other businesses to the area. Do you see that?
Yes, and I look at the EDC as they've had a lot of good people in there with a lot of good ideas, but it's like a carpenter without a hammer. They don't have the tools necessary to really attract people here, i.e. buildings.
So then this is a tool.
Right. And they've built a small building out in North Wilkesboro, and there's an industrial park out there in North Wilkesboro, which doesn't really fit the criteria for many companies that are looking to do something
really large.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. It's it serves the purpose, but there's a few factors lacking. This property has the roadways, the entries, the access. It's right in the middle of everything.
Yeah. Security. It's a very safe building, right?
Yeah. So it goes without saying there's a lot of opportunity there.
How long do you think it'll take to pull all this together?
Yeah, well, somewhere between this afternoon and 2 or 3 years down the road, I guess.
Okay. But that's, time moves pretty quickly. So attracting people, getting the deals done, getting them moved in, and unless they're all call center people, they're going to have to be some cubicles going to market.
Yep.
I would imagine.
Yep. If you're going to eat an elephant, it's one bite at a time, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's exciting, though, isn't it? Do you find that it's an exciting time now? I look at it from the perspective as, there's always lots of clutter going around. That's why the woods are great, right? To go and just not listen to all that. But about the economy, about this going up, that going down, all of these type of conversations. But life goes on.
Yep.
And it moves on. And to me, it seems like Wilkes County, this region, still has a lot of good things going on.
Yeah,
and a lot of good people,
right.
Driven by good people. And I think that, to me, that might be the most important part of it.
And we get back to balance. What do we want Wilkes County to be? Yes, we'd like to see some growth. Mm-hmm. Do we want it to become Charlotte? Not I.
No.
I don't. So we have the opportunity to have good quality growth that's not terribly impactful on the land, mm-hmm. that doesn't create all the things we avoid here by living here, like huge traffic jams and
right.
Crime and all those kind of things. So what kind of growth do we need, and what do we want?
Balanced.
We want good balanced growth and quality businesses to come in here and attract quality people, but we don't want 1 million people here.
Right.
and we're not found out quite yet.
Right, but that's going to happen. Let me ask you this. Are you doing anything with Finley Property to help with this other issue, which is housing? I mean, are you developing more? Do you have more developments in the works from that side? Because that's, for some companies, that's a concern.
Yeah, it's huge. Our housing study says we need 2,800 units right now, both apartment, multifamily, and single family, skewed towards lower income, but it's across the board. So those we are lacking there.
How long will
it's been a difficult period of time to develop in, with construction prices being so high and interest rates both at the same time. Usually you can offset one with the other, but they're both high right now. And so it makes it tough. I parked a 64-unit apartment project. I parked it a couple of years ago because it just can't make the numbers work. So how do you address that? Well, you hope and pray that construction prices come down and or interest rates. But there are programs out there that still some programs that the government offers that are help subsidize those. And I'm not talking about Section 8 housing type things. I'm talking about things for workforce housing.
Building for the people that are going to move here to work here.
Right.
Because the businesses that we're trying to attract, the people have to stay somewhere.
Yeah, and we built about 15 townhomes in downtown Wilkesboro just 2 or 3 years ago, and all of them sold, and everyone loves it. So we need more of that, and we need some that is more affordable than those were. If you can hit that 300,000 or a little bit under, there's a sweet spot.
Right. So, but what you're saying is, it sounds like this is a way we have to see what happens as far as the conditions, right? To do big developments.
You do, but we are looking at some of the programs that are out there that could help bring the costs down to make a developer want to do something.
What do you think that timing looks like?
Well, I've got a meeting at 1:30 today about it.
Right. So it's in the work. You're looking at these things aggressively.
Right.
I mean, obviously, with the new facility that you've got, there are probably going to be people attracted to the area because of that.
Yes.
And those people, which is the best thing of all, right? To grow the population with a few people that have expertise and specialties, and that they've got good paying jobs.
Yeah.
That would be a good situation.
But people walk away from those things when they can't find a good place to live.
Exactly.
And it has happened, and it is happening, and it's a problem.
All right. Well, get that fixed, all right? As best you can. It'll
take a village.
Yeah. Do you find that is that happening? Are you fellow builders and developers? Is there a group that gets together and you talk about these things, and what can we do to deal with this?
Yeah, there's a handful that are interested. And if you set it up and find the right scenario, you can always pull in some of the bigger developers from
other areas
out of town and furnish the land and the utilities and stuff like that.
Right. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation. So maybe every few months we can just sit and talk about this, and because I think it's something that people are concerned about. I mean, there's all different things, all types of things to be concerned about,
Yep.
But this is one of those things that dramatically affects the future,
right?
The future of the area. And when we talk with the Economic Development Council and all the things they're working on, and there needs to be some of those big things that are happening,
right?
Because seeing something that's happening and moving forward now, hopefully that inspires other people, right?
Of course. And I'd be amiss not to mention the recovery world. we have epidemic problems in Wilkes, just like about any other community in the United States, with opioid use and substance abuse, that kind of thing. And one thing we're doing is we started Wilkes Recovery Revolution about 8 years ago.
Yes.
And it just began as sober living facilities, basically, but it's grown, and we now have about 24 employees. We have about 10 programs that have to do with recovery and, getting jobs or eating right. Lots of different things there. But we have bought a facility in eastern Wilkes County at State Road. It was the former Bridges Academy. And before that, it was Pleasant Hill Elementary School a long time ago. But we're getting ready to open that anytime now. And there'll be intensive outpatient treatment initially, and then we plan to move into the full residential community out there and make a big impact on that.
Let's talk about why it's important that we have these conversations. Devin is sat in this chair that you're sitting in and shared an incredible story.
Sure.
Her life story. She certainly mentioned your name in very kind ways, and she shared amazing stories.
Right.
And the idea of a community being strong is a community that faces its issues and helps us move forward. So whether it's drug addiction, whether it's what we eat and don't exercise or do, or we smoke or whatever, and we have cancers to deal with, all of those things are very real. And I don't think it makes a community stronger. I actually think for people relocating to an area, knowing that these things are their resources in dealing with what happens to just about every family in some way or form.
Of course.
Right? I think it makes a community stronger. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it offers hope because some of these situations seem hopeless, I mean, I've dealt with it. My son died from that, and so it's good to be able to do something about it, and to have people like Devin and Walker working on that. They're just all stars, and it's endless.
Haven't they gotten national attention from their work?
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes, it's amazing. And I'll put a plug in. If you got some money laying around you want to do something good with, give it to Wilkes Recovery Revolution.
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
I think sometimes we get confused about people's whatever we're going through, and people get judged for being in whatever. It doesn't matter whether it's poverty or drug addiction or whatever it might be. But I never will forget, I was in Shelby, North Carolina, and there was a big billboard there, and a professional doctor, it looked like, was on the billboard, and it wasn't him saying, join us in helping us fight drugs. He was saying, I needed the help, right? So the faces that we're talking about, and this usually is not something you're born with. This just happens, and you got a brief period. So it's like being sick, and then you get fixed, right? Or you get help, and that's very powerful.
Yeah.
I don't know, that maybe you come out stronger on the other side, right?
Perhaps.
At least for a humanity standpoint, you've got empathy. You're like,
agree.
Wow. Is that hard for you to talk about?
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it is, but I've struggled with it myself, with alcohol. And I know what it's like, and I know that there's help out there, but you need to make it available to as many people as possible, because it's a huge epidemic. And
normalize the conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just... It's really a disease, and then our environmental factors play into it. The social aspect of things being acceptable.
Right.
I mean, it's just a feeding ground for it getting a hold of you and just taking over your life in a bad way.
Right. I don't know if you know the director of the art gallery now. Incredible lady. And she sat here and she talked about the therapeutic value of art and just that creative space and helping us deal with all sorts of things in life.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was like I was in a therapy session. So I'm booking her again.
Right.
You can come sit with me. So, but just seeing how taking a moment to step aside from the constraints of being proper, whatever that might be, and dealing with whatever muck we all have to deal with.
Yeah, it's having outlets.
Yeah. And
outlets from the chaos.
Yeah, and having that conversation. I love history, so I talk with a lot of people about history, and when we go back in time and you look at our founding fathers, you look at all the people who did all the hard work, and that was hard work, building a nation. But there were lots of problems. There are lots of problems. The deeper you get, you get to know.
There always have been. There always will be.
That's right. It's nothing new.
Right.
It's nothing new. Cam Finley, wow, what a property development visit we've had.
Yeah, I've certainly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
It's been great. I look forward to having you sit with me again. I think Barry's a very interesting fellow, Barry Bush. And then that guy, what's the guy's name you've got that works for you?
William?
Yes, met him at your... at the open house you had over there. So he seems to be doing a real good job for you. All your team seem to be good folks.
It's a good team. Yeah, absolutely. Thankful to have them.
All right. Well, congratulations on the new property. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you for spending time with us on Life in Wilkes. We value you as a viewer and appreciate when you share the show with your friends and family. Be sure to bookmark our channel and join us again on the next episode of Life in Wilkes.